Pegasus is one of the best known and most admired mythological creatures. His myth originates in Greece. Pegasus is an equine, gifted with wings and a pure heart. This winged steed is the son of Medusa and Poseidon. He was born after the death of the Gorgon Medusa, who was beheaded by the hero Perseus. From the blood gushing from Medusa's neck, Pegasus and his brother, the golden giant Chrysaor, were born. Medusa was pregnant by Poseidon, but the curse that turned her into a Gorgon prevented her from giving birth. Only after her death, Pegasus was able to come into the world. The winged horse flew to Mount Helicon, where the inspiring Muses lived. There he slammed his hooves into the ground with all his might, and brought forth the Hippocrene fountain. Whoever drank that water would be inspired by the Muses to make the most beautiful artistic achievements, giving rise to the term Fountain of Inspiration. Due to his fame, many tried to tame him without success, but Athena, with the help of her protege Bellerophon, tamed Pegasus with the golden bridle offered by the goddess. Mounted on the winged horse, the hero defeated the fearsome Chimera, the monster that plagued the kingdom of Lycia. Finally, after the fall of Bellerophon, who tried to use Pegasus to reach Olympus, Zeus decided to honor the formidable creature by transforming it into the constellation Pegasus. The horse went on to serve the supreme god on Olympus, carrying Zeus's lightning bolts. The magnificent animal came to be seen as a symbol of creativity, poetic inspiration, and impetuosity. The unicorn is one of the most famous mythological creatures that ever existed. The animal is depicted by being a horse with a single horn in the center of its forehead, and so it was named unicorn, which means only one horn. These amazing horses are characterized as being docile beings, but extremely temperamental. Domesticating them was virtually an impossible task. Even though they escaped any attempt of approximation done by men, the unicorns could be receptive to virgin maidens with a pure heart. These could touch them, and even ride them if the animal allowed. For this reason, during the Middle Ages, the unicorn became a symbol of purity and chastity. Its mythological origin is unknown. The unicorn does not appear in Greek mythology, but Greek authors recorded them in their bestiaries. The creature is also mentioned in China, India, and in the Middle East, but its popularity grew in the late Middle Ages and early Renaissance, mostly due to its connection to the image of the Virgin Mary, Mother of Jesus Christ. Works of art from that era depict Our Lady with the unicorn on her lap, hence symbolizing the purity of the conception of Jesus. During that period, it was believed that the spiral-shaped horns of the unicorn had magical and curative properties. Taking advantage of those superstitions, deceitful fishermen sold the fangs of narwhals as being unicorns. Even the Queen of England, Elizabeth I, had one of those fangs, believing it was a unicorn horn. But since we are talking about the Kingdom of England, the unicorn is part of the royal coat of arms of Queen Elizabeth II, and in many other coats around the world. Nowadays, in pop culture, the unicorn ended up becoming a meal for Voldemort, who drank its blood to preserve his life in the book series Harry Potter. We also have the unforgettable Uni from Dungeons & Dragons, who seemed to have as her single role a tendency to always get into trouble, precisely when the heroes were about to go home. The unicorns are also among the favorite creatures of 9 from 10 girls aged less than 12, so there is no shortage in the market for toys with the figure of this creature, but even those older than 12 are enchanted with the splendor of the unicorn.
The headless mule is the Brazilian folklore creature that people remember most when talking about frightening figures. Like its name implies, the creature is a headless mule. Burning flames shine where the head would have been. One explanation as to why the headless mule appeared is that these were women who got involved with priests, seducing them and leading them off the path to God. When these women wed the priests, folk traditions claim that sooner or later they will become headless mules, where there is a full moon on Thursday night. The headless mule wanders around all night, looking for people to haunt. Its neighing is so high-pitched that it can be heard from long distances. Many are also terrified when they hear the mule's hoofbeats, as it wears silver horseshoes. When confronted with the headless mule, one must throw oneself on the ground, cower, and hide one's nails and teeth. Nails and teeth are prized delicacies for the mule. There is one way to overcome the priest's wife's curse. If there is anyone brave enough to confront the creature, they should try to tear the reins from the mule. The priest's wife will then be freed from the curse, but she won't be completely safe. After her life comes to an end, she'll be forced to spend time in purgatory to cleanse her sins. Until this day, some Sertanejos report hearing the creature's neighs and hoofbeats. This proves that the legend of the headless mule lives on.
The hippocampus was a well-known creature among the people of ancient Greece. While it is less famous than other mythological creatures such as Medusa or the Minotaur, the hippocampus occupies a special spot in the maritime bestiary of Greek mythology. The word hippocampus derives from the Greek hippos, horse, and campos, sea monster. Usually the hippocampus is depicted with the upper part of a horse, but with a fish or snake tail. The hippocampus's most important role in Greek mythology is its connection with Poseidon, the god of the seas. The latter was often portrayed in a chariot pulled by seahorses and sea nymphs, emphasizing his mastery over the seas. The hippocampi were Poseidon's preferred steeds when moving through the seas. They were symbols of speed and strength on the water, allowing the god to travel quickly and display his power. As well as their association with Poseidon, the hippocampi were also seen escorting other maritime deities and sea nymphs. The Nereids, daughters of the sea god Nereus, were often depicted riding hippocampi. In its fusion of horse and fish, the hippocampus represents the intersection between the land and sea worlds. The sea was a realm of mystery, danger, and beauty for the Greeks. The hippocampus embodies the connection between the known and the unknown, the mundane and the divine. Modern marine biology defines the hippocampus as a genus of fish belonging to the Cygnathidae family, and seahorses are its most famous representatives. These fish are renowned for their unique appearance. They have long, slender bodies and horse-like heads. They are found mostly in temperate and tropical waters around the world.
The horse of thought is a legendary creature from Portuguese lore. It is a winged black horse with bat-like wings that shoots fire out of its nostrils and speeds through the air. There are many different legends about the horse, some reporting it as a dangerous being capable of wiping out entire villages. Others have it as a kind of neutral creature. The horse of thought symbolizes the power of imagination and thought. This is a pure-thinking creature, invoked only by those with pure hearts and strong imaginations. Among the most well-known legends about the horse of thought is that of a young shepherd looking after his sheep when he spotted a shiny black horse charging through the air. The horse was so fast, however, that he could barely track it with his eyes. The shepherd returned to the same spot the next day and started thinking intensely about the horse. Suddenly, it appeared in front of him, inviting him to take it anywhere in the world. The shepherd agreed and got on the horse. It flew through the sky, taking him to a magical world where he met fantastic creatures and experienced memorable adventures. The shepherd returned to his world after several days. The horse led him right back to the place where he had found him and vanished. The shepherd never caught sight of the horse of thought again, but never forgot the adventures he had experienced with it. The horse of thought represents the spell of imagination, a reminder that, if you think hard enough, you can accomplish anything.
The majestic centaurs are certainly one of Greek mythology's most distinctive creatures. With bodies combining human and equine characteristics, the centaurs epitomize the struggle between civility and brutality, wisdom and instinct. Today's video looks at the fascinating history of these mythical beings, going into their bizarre origins, their major battles, and their most famous representatives. While they are one of the best-known creatures of Greek mythology, Other cultures before the Greeks had already conceptualized the idea of this same half-man, half-horse creature, such as the Mesopotamian peoples. The Greeks were surely influenced by the people before them to create their own myths and legends, but they were rather original in coming up with their origin. Several versions explain the origin of the centaurs, but the most famous tells us that the centaurs are descendants of Ixion, king of the Lapiths. The gods once invited Ixion to a banquet on Mount Olympus. There, he became fascinated with the beauty of the goddess Hera, wife of Zeus. Infatuated, he began to flirt with her, who was outraged by his boldness and told Zeus everything. But that day, the supreme god was in a playful mood and set about tricking Ixion. He made a cloud look like the goddess and enticed the king of the Lapiths. Ixion flirted with the cloud masquerading as the Olympian queen, much to the chagrin of Hera, who was not pleased with Zeus's antics. But the oddest part of this story was still to come. The centaurs were born from this strange pairing. The other version of the centaur's origin is that Cronus fell in love with the beautiful ocean dweller Philyra. She attempted to escape the onslaught of the powerful Titan by transforming herself into a mare, but Cronus changed himself into a stallion and caught up with the sea nymph. Chiron was born from this union, and much to Philyra's shock and horror, he was a centaur, and his half-man, half-horse figure disturbed her. Philyra was so distraught by her son's looks that she abandoned him. This centaur of distinguished and noble provenance would become known as Chiron. Ixion's centaur sons made their first significant appearance in Greek myths at the wedding of Pegasus, king of the Lapiths. Despite having been aware of his relative's untamed nature, Pegasus, a mortal man, invited his centaur kinsman to his wedding with his bride Hippodamia. During this event, the centaur's savage nature came to the fore, spurred on by the plentiful wine offered to the guests, leading to a bloody battle known as the Centauromachi. This fight between the centaurs and the Lapiths epitomized the infighting between primal nature and civilization, a recurring theme in Greek mythology. The centaurs were mighty creatures who tried to kidnap Pegasus's new wife. They would have been successful if it had not been for the intervention of an honorable guest of the grooms, Theseus, the hero renowned for defeating the terrible Minotaur in the Cretan labyrinth. With the hero's priceless help, Pegasus and the Lapiths defeated the centaurs' savagery. The centaurs are portrayed in several ways throughout the myths, from wild and uncontrollable creatures to wise and mentor-like figures. This duality is exemplified in the difference between the wise Chiron and the violent centaur Nessus. The centaur Chiron was always distinguished by his wisdom and kindness, a striking contrast to his species' barbarism. The offspring of the god Cronus and the nymph Philyra, Chiron was immortal and famous for his knowledge of medicine, music, archery, and even prophecy, as the centaur himself was tutored by the god Apollo. He lived in Pelion's cavernous mountain, where his knowledge attracted many disciples. Some of his most famous pupils were heroes like Achilles, Asclepius, Jason, and Hercules. Each of these heroes was molded by Chiron's lessons, learning not only physical skills, but also moral and ethical qualities. Chiron's journey is also punctuated by tragedy. While meeting Heracles, he was accidentally struck by an arrow poisoned with the blood of the Lernaean Hydra. He suffered unbearable pain and could not heal despite his immortality. In a selfless act, he relinquished his immortality to die and free himself from the pain, a gesture that impressed the gods to such an extent that they put him in the sky as the Sagittarius constellation. When Hercules crossed paths with centaurs, the outcome of the story was tragic. For Nessus, yet another well-known centaur in Greek mythology, is mainly famous for his role in the story that leads to Hercules' death. Nessus was a centaur noted for his raw strength. His fatal run-in with Heracles took place when he offered to help carry Deianira, Heracles' wife, across a flowing river. Nessus attempted to kidnap Deianira, leading Hercules to shoot a poisoned arrow at him. However, before he died, Nessus duped Deianira, telling her that his blood would serve as a love charm to ensure Heracles' fidelity. Alas, the blood was poisoned with the Lernaean Hydra's venom. When Deianira later used it in a garment for Heracles, he was devoured by a burning pain, resulting in his tragic end. These varied centaurs serve to exemplify the complexity of this creature in Greek mythology. They are not just wild beasts, but beings with their own stories, personalities, and motivations. The ancient Greeks tapped into themes of civility versus barbarism, the duality of human nature, and the search for a balance between instinct and reason. The centaur figure, with its alluring human-horse hybrid, was an artistic source of inspiration in ancient Greece, as reflected in various art forms, from painted vases to large sculptures. Greek vases often portrayed mythological scenes, and centaurs were well-known figures in these visual narratives. They were often depicted in battle scenes, especially in the Centauromachy, battling heroes or the Lapiths. These images not only illustrated popular stories, but also served as a visual metaphor for the conflict between civilization and barbarism. Greek sculptures also expressed a fascination with centaurs, with many pieces displaying an uncanny ability to render both the human and equine form in a single figure. Renowned examples include the metopes of the Parthenon, where centaurs are depicted fighting with Theseus, the great Athenian hero. Centaurs often featured in murals and frescoes, although many of these works have been lost over time. The depiction of the centaur Chiron training the heroes was a very prominent theme in art, and numerous artistic representations of these episodes exist. The centaur image has evolved over time. Originally, centaurs were portrayed in a more bestial and vicious way, symbolizing chaos and savagery. As time went by, they began to be portrayed in a more humanized way, especially in stories involving Chiron. This evolution translates into a change in the Greeks' understanding of these creatures, moving from representations of primitive impulses to more intricate figures capable of wisdom and kindness. These artistic renderings are crucial to understanding how the ancient Greeks and the peoples who followed them viewed centaurs and what these creatures meant to them. Through art, myths were not only documented, but also interpreted and reimagined, keeping stories and cultural values fresh. With their dual character, centaurs have always been symbolically rich in Greek culture. Centaurs symbolized the intrinsic duality of human nature in Greek mythology. The equine part stood for animal instincts, biological drives, and the desire for freedom and hedonism, while the human part symbolized intelligence, culture, and civilization. This duality is clearly illustrated in the figures of Chiron and Nessus. The wise and mentoring Chiron refers to the ability to harmonize the two aspects, while Nessus, with his violent and impulsive actions, embodies the predominance of basic instincts over reason. The centaurs have not remained restricted to the ancient pages of mythology. They have spread to literature, cinema, and other art forms, retaining their symbolic relevance and attracting new interpretations. Centaurs appear in fantasy works of literature, often portrayed as wise and mysterious beings, echoing Chiron's influence. Centaurs play a significant role in astronomy and astrology. The Centaurus constellation is one of the largest in the night sky. In mythology, it is often associated with Chiron. Alpha Centauri, one of the star systems closest to Earth, is found within it. The figure of the centaur in Sagittarius symbolizes the search for wisdom, adventure, and the quest to explore the unknown. The centaur archer traditionally points his arrow at the stars, representing lofty ideals, philosophy, and the constant search for the deeper meaning of life. The centaur's enduring presence in modern popular culture proves the long-lasting appeal of myths. They continue to captivate the imagination, serving as a bridge between the old and the new. In their various representations, centaurs continue to challenge, inspire, and fascinate, proof that ancient myths still have much to teach us about ourselves and the world around us. On Ireland's dim roads, in the silence of the night, a supernatural being walks through the shadows, striking fear and dread into the hearts of those who cross his path. This is the headless horseman Doulahan, a legendary figure wrapped in mystery and terror. As legend has it, the Doulahan is a messenger of death, sent to collect the souls of the damned. Riding a black horse as ominous as himself, Doulahan rides at a frantic gallop, grasping his own severed head in one hand. His hideously pale head with an evil grin shines like the moon, illuminating the road ahead with a macabre glow. Doulahan's eyes are sharp and piercing, able to see over huge distances, always on the lookout for its victims. His mouth, perpetually twisted into a smile, is always whispering the name of the one whose soul he has come to seek. Everywhere he goes, doors close on their own, and the wind murmurs menacingly, announcing his arrival. They say a person is bound to die wherever Doulahan comes to a stop. He is known to spill human blood as part of his ritual, and anyone who sees him, even from a distance, is sentenced to perish soon. Once Doulahan has spoken their name, there is no escaping their fate. Like him, his horse is a hellish creature. With blazing eyes and nostrils oozing steam and fire, it gallops tirelessly, ignoring all obstacles in its path. There is no gate or barrier that can stop them, as they pass through all barriers as easily as the wind blows through leaves. Doulahan has a human spine like a whip, and its shattering sound is enough to paralyze anyone who hears it with fear. With one flick of his whip, he can open any door or lock any soul inside. Anyone who dares to eavesdrop or challenge his presence can be struck down by his wrath. Only one barrier stands against the Doulahan: gold. For unknown reasons, he fears this precious metal and flinches at the sight of it. Small coins or even jewels may be enough to ward off the headless horseman and protect one's soul from perdition. When night falls and darkness overtakes the world, you'd better stay off the lonely roads and pray that you never catch the sound of horses' hooves approaching in the deadly silence. For if you do, you may find Doulahan creepily smiling as your soul is swept away to the afterlife. The Oricuro is a mythical unicorn-like figure from Spanish folklore. It is like a white horse, but with deer's legs, a lion's tail, a purple head, glowing blue eyes, and tiny wings on its paws. It has, like a unicorn, a long twisted horn on its forehead. Legend has it that the Oricuro possesses magical abilities. Its horn can cure poisons and diseases, as well as make wishes come true. That horn is especially powerful and is wanted as a good luck charm or amulet. According to Spanish mythology, the Oricuro is commonly associated with Saint Milan, a 6th century monk considered to be the patron saint of Castile. Saint Milan is said to have mounted a white unicorn in the battle against the Moors. The Oricuro symbolizes purity, fortitude, and magic. It reminds us that there is always hope, even in the darkest times.
The Sagari is a strange mythical creature from Japanese folklore, resembling a grotesque bodiless horse head with a flowing mane. He used to fall from mulberry trees to frighten travelers. He is known as the Sagari Kubi, which means hanging neck. According to legend, Sagari was the vengeful spirit of a horse that died in a cruel and unjust death, rotting where it lay. He is said to haunt the site of death, seeking revenge against those who wronged him. Sagari will appear on dark and stormy nights, floating in the air with his neck stretched out, looking for his next victim. In other versions, Sagari does nothing, just appears in front of someone's face and emits an unholy cry. But those who hear the neighing and screaming may experience a nasty fever, so watch out.
Kelpies are legendary beings of Scottish folklore. They are water spirits, commonly portrayed as horses, that reside in rivers and lochs. Despite their beguiling appearance, Kelpies are often portrayed as treacherous and hazardous creatures in legends. The Kelpie is commonly depicted as a stunning black horse that lives in a body of water. Kelpie stories typically depict the creature charming unwary individuals to mount them. Breaking free from a kelpie after riding it is an extremely difficult task. The skin of a kelpie is commonly depicted as highly adhesive, allowing the creature to pull its prey into the water, where it is subsequently drowned and devoured. According to some legends, a person can gain control over the kelpie by putting a magical bridle on it, which will compel the creature to obey their commands. According to other legends, a kelpie can also shapeshift into human form to entice unsuspecting victims into water. The creature's equine nature is unmistakable due to its hooves, tail, and damp appearance. The arrival of Christianity in Scotland during the 6th century brought about a shift in folklore beliefs, leading to the association of the kelpies with Satan. Scottish Celtic folklore contained a valuable lesson through its stories, emphasizing the peril that lurks beneath a charming and alluring appearance. This lesson is applicable not only to the waters of Scotland's lochs and rivers, but also to other aspects of life.
The blowing of the apocalypse trumpets will be followed by the arrival of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, among the most feared characters in the Christian world. John the Evangelist was one of the apostles closest to Jesus, and one of the main preachers of Christ's teachings. John is regarded as the author of important biblical books, such as the Gospel of John and the 3 epistles of John. But his most famous work was the Book of Revelation. John the Evangelist had been exiled to the Greek island of Patmos, where he sought to evade the persecution of Christians declared by the Roman Emperor Domitian. During his stay in Patmos, John wrote the Book of Revelation, describing his prophetic visions bestowed by an angel of the Lord showing the end of time and Messiah's return. The prophecies in the Book of Revelation and the biblical New Testament tell that, when the end times come, God will hold in his hand a scroll containing 7 holy seals, which in turn safeguard the scroll's contents that tell of great secrets hidden since the earth's foundation. According to the Judeo-Christian vision, the coming of the apocalypse will usher in the divine revelation of things that until then remained secret. But it will also bring about many calamities and catastrophes, such as humanity has never seen before. By opening the first 4 seals, God releases the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse upon the earth, who ride on horses of different colors. The first one rides on a white horse. He carries a bow and arrows, as well as a golden crown. He may be Jesus Christ himself in some interpretations, or, as in other versions, he is the figure known as the Antichrist, whose mission is to ride around the world shooting poisoned arrows, containing the germs of all diseases, and summoning pestilence upon the earth. The second horseman is the one responsible for bringing war. He carries a sword and rides a red horse. He has been granted the right to bring peace to earth, causing men to kill each other mercilessly. His raised sword represents the end of peace, and his blood-red horse means the death of thousands of people, suggesting a great world war where cities will be ravaged and thousands of lives will be lost. The third horseman mounts a black horse and is popularly known as the one who will bring famine to the world. He carries a pair of scales that can represent justice's volatility, which can swing either one way or the other. The scales also represent the scarcity of food in the world, with a full day's wages buying just a portion of wheat capable of feeding a single person, so that workers would struggle to feed their families. The fourth and last rider is called Death. He rides a skinny, cadaverous horse of a pale yellow color. The fourth horseman is depicted as being accompanied by Hades, meaning that he has near him the entrance to the world of the dead, where countless demons dwell. The arrival of the fourth horseman also starts a new stage of the prophecy, where God grants the 4 horsemen authority over a quarter of the earth to kill with the sword, famine, and disease, and to bring death by attacks of wild beasts against humans. The first 2 horsemen will introduce carnage and oppression, which in turn will be followed by the horsemen of famine, who will destroy food production and the hope for future harvests. This sets the stage for a disease epidemic, and the coming of the fourth horseman will decimate the Earth's population with death. Quite a few interpretations have been made about the Book of Revelation over the years. While some suggest that the events described by John already occurred in the past, during the fall of the Roman Empire, many believe that the prophecies will still be fulfilled, and that our world is getting closer and closer to the end.
The Legend of the Old Woman of the White Mare is a Portuguese folk tale about a mysterious figure involved in supernatural and traditional events. The Old Woman of the White Mare, says the legend, is an old lady, wrinkled and clad in white, riding a snow-white mare. Some versions of the legend claim that the mare can fly or vanish quickly. The Old Woman of the White Mare wanders through remote towns and regions of southern Portugal. She is regarded as a sort of messenger, or even an omen of important events or looming disasters. She can predict the future, emerging on the darkest, quietest nights to deliver messages or warnings about events happening in the community. Many people regard the Old Woman of the White Mare as a bad omen. Her apparition, particularly on dark nights, may be interpreted as a sign of change or a warning. Yet others believe that she may be a gatekeeper of the Algarve lands, an inheritance from the ancient Celts who once lived there. She stands guard over the fields and protects the villages. The folklore symbolism of this figure is intricate. The white mare is a mighty symbol in itself. The European culture often sees the white horse as a bringer of good news or as a mystical being. Pairing the old woman, frequently associated with wisdom and knowledge, with the white mare creates a duality of mystery and power. The tale of the Old Woman of the White Mare is one of many examples of Portuguese folklore. An ancient story, the legend of the Old White Mare still echoes in modern culture. It is referenced in songs, poetry, and works of art, bridging the gap between past and present.
Once upon a time, a horse and a deer fought over who would graze the sweet grass growing in a meadow. The deer managed to scare off the horse using sharp antlers, but the equine swore revenge. The horse asked a hunter to help him with his revenge, and the hunter said he would need to ride him to catch up with the swift deer. Mounted on the animal, the hunter managed to shoot the deer with a perfect shot. The horse, satisfied, thanked the hunter and asked him to remove his saddle and harness. But the hunter did not listen, and from that day on, the horse was forced to serve him. Moral: most of the time, the price of revenge is the loss of one's freedom.